Thank you for this opportunity. Very briefly, South Africa is a multi-level government system, not a federal system. Very clear about that. And the three levels of government are national, provincial, and local government level. The provinces has been controversial from its start, not favored by the African National Congress, the ruling party, but after 27 years, they fairly entrenched. Interest groups have formed around it, but they are not the main drivers of any development. They're losing powers to the national government. For example, if the national health insurance comes in, they will simply become implementers of health, not drivers. They're losing the power of housing to local government, and they may be remained with education. So it was also part of the design of the Constitution that local government came to the fore as a driver of development called developmental local government. And it set the gold standard about local autonomy. And you have a wonderful statement: a municipality has the right to govern on its own initiative the local government affairs of its community, subject to national and provincial legislation as provided by the Constitution. That comes out of the Constitution. So entrenched democracy, listed powers in key functional areas where they can matter, listed and protected revenue-raising powers, and they part of a third sphere of government. And so they included into an intergovernmental relations framework. They're not simply a stepchild. And this model has proved very attractive, and we see copies of it in Kenya, Zimbabwe, and Zambia. Since 2000, when the Constitution was fully implemented for the first time, for the past 20 years, we see now 257 municipalities. They are large, they are inclusive both of urban and rural. We have 8 large metropolitan municipalities, which are powerful, big budgets. The city of Johannesburg has got a bigger budget than 2 or 3 provinces. They've got skills and the resources. Then outside the metropolitan areas, we have 44 district municipalities, in which 205 local municipalities form part. So districts are mainly for coordination. The big engines of action would be then the 205 local municipalities. But as local government must cover the entire country, wall-to-wall municipalities, we see both rural and urban, resourced and under-resourced, so a very uneven and varying types of municipalities. But it's important sphere of government. 28% of government expenditure is done by local authorities, and they collectively collect about 25% through their own efforts. And also a high level of self-sufficiency. 72% of their revenue comes from own source revenue. But highly uneven metros up in the 90s of own source revenues. Poorest would be reliant on transfers for 80%. Now, that's the background. Now, over the past 20 years, we've seen that the gold standard of local government is not coming to fruition. In fact, it is seriously under stress. Now, for some time now, there has been real doubts about the functionality of municipalities to deliver services. It first was a third split, a third dysfunctional, a third on the brink, and a third functional. The latest, and these are government figures and government designations. At the moment, they talk about, and this is 2019, 2020, a 5% being stable, 5% of the municipalities being stable, 25% low risk, 42% medium risk, and the risk is whether they become dysfunctional, of which 25%, one in every four municipality is dysfunctional, which meaning it cannot perform its functions. Now, from the dysfunctional municipalities, which there are about 64, there's been provincial interventions in 29 of them, which is an obligation or first a power of provinces to intervene and take over the municipality, and in some cases even dismiss the democratic elected councils. There's also obligation on the duty on both provinces and municipality and national government to intervene if there's a financial crisis. But there's again an underperformance of the provinces and national government to intervene in the other dysfunctional municipalities, which have not been, in which there's been no intervention yet. The financial health is at this moment precarious. According to Treasury figures, 63% are in financial distress, mostly meaning their debts are more than their revenue. And then if you look carefully, 40% of all of the 257 municipalities, the budgets are unfunded. So when they start off on the wrong basis. It's not realistic, the income, it's not realistic, the expenditure. And that clearly leads to financial distress. And then a large number are deeply indebted to the electricity generator called Eskom for billions of rands, and also water boards. And these debts cannot be repaid from current income. Now, if you look at also the financial management, there is serious problems. In the Auditor General's report of 2019-2020, its opinion was 10% of municipalities were clean audits, 37 unqualified, so this low half are reasonable in terms of the financial management. Then it starts with 31% qualified, 3% adverse, so they couldn't express an opinion, or was such a poor report, state of affairs. 9% disclaimer, not disclaim, disclaimer. It's well, they couldn't make opinion on the state of affairs. And then a large percentage, 10, is they have not even produced the documents yet. It's outstanding. And if you look at what the Auditor General says about why is this poor state, they refer to poor leadership. Secondly, vacancies in the financial departments, and mostly these are then underskilled, not appointed the right persons, cadre deployment. 3, political instability, which on a number of cases are a problem, serious problem. And then importantly, no accountability. So the democratic system is not working to keep municipalities accountable to the population. And we see a high level of mismanagement and corruption. So that was beginning just before COVID. Since then, last 2 years, the problems increased. And also to note, when South Africa, when COVID struck in March 2020, South Africa was then already technically in recession. So, two political problematic trends that we've seen. The one is politics, and the other is economics. Let's start with the economics. As South Africa was in recession in the first quarter of 2020, it simply has deepened the recession. COVID had a major blow to the economy, and this quarter, the third quarter of this year, the official unemployment figure is 35%. And further is, I think there are about 12,000 taxpayers and almost equal, slightly less people living off grants. And what has also happened at municipal level is that they are in a scissors. On the one hand, their own and transfers to them from the national fiscus are reduced, and the demands due to the increase in poverty and employment has increased. And so they sit in this terrible dilemma. Now, the last trend is that of politics, quite profound. In 2016, the last local government election, the ANC hovered at 54%, DA, which is the main opposition party, mostly representing whites and minority groups in South Africa. The EFF, the Economic Freedom Fighters, as the name suggests, are much more radical Africanist party, which says nationalize the land, and the Inkatha Freedom Party, a traditional Zulu party from KwaZulu-Natal. In the 2019 national election, the ANC improved on that 54% to about 58%. The DA fell. EF rose about 1 or 2%, and the IFP very localized in KwaZulu-Natal. And that was the Cyril Ramaphosa factor that lifted the ANC a bit. Now, in the 1st of November 2021 was the local government elections, and now for the first time, the ANC dropped below 50% to 46%. The DA lost a couple of percentage points. EFF gained, but not as much as everyone thought, and there's a comeback of the Inkatha Freedom Party. The other big event was that the figures in terms of how many councils that they control, the ANC still, although with the minority of votes, still controls 161, DA 13, and the IFP 10 outright majorities. But the big change was the 66 hung councils, i.e. no party gets a majority. And so the three metros, the heartland of South Africa's industrial and financial bases, are now governed not by the ANC, but by an unstable DA and EFF anti-ANC coalition. You can imagine DA on the right, EFF on the left, no common ground, yet their common anti-ANC sentiments drove them to vote together. So Gauteng now are run with DA mayors, but for how long, no one is sure. So a real element of instability is now thrown in, coupled with a serious financial or economic problems. The next 5 years is going to be very difficult. And what role decentralization is going to play in it, I'm not sure. It seems that the primary objective is to get the economy going, yet the country is so divided on what that should be that I do not see any immediate change, and therefore also no bigger role for municipalities to play in this regard. Thank you.